freaking first cut. Golly. Welcome to the First Cut Podcast. I'm Rick Gehman, and this is your day two, your Friday recap for this week's President's Cup. And joining me to break it all down, it is Mark Immelman. And Mark, what difference a day makes?
Rick, it's a good thing I'm not a gambler, because if I was, I would be broke. I would be broker than broke. Eesh, my God, what a day.
What a day. So after a 5-0 drubbing by the United States on Thursday, one of the handful of times any team has ever swept a session, the international squad got their revenge on Friday. They put up a 5-0 result themselves. And Mark, it was not, we'll go match by match here, but this was resounding. This was throughout the golf course, major victories. We tied a President's Cup record today with how big one of the wins was. This was not 5 close matches that fell in favor of the internationals. It was a resounding sweep.
Yeah, and that's a good call. And I want to take it back to last night this time when, we got done with our World Feed show and we were driving back to the hotel. And our announce crew, we've got an Australian in Colin Swadden. We have me, who's South African-American, and we have Craig Perks, who's a New Zealander, and of course, John Swantek, the American. So we're looking at this going, wow, so disappointing from an international team's perspective. And then, we're just bantering back and forth and stuff. And Colin, who worked for Jason Day for many years, has done 3 President's Cups. And he goes, you know what? Because he was out there on the course and I was in the booth. He goes, I was astounded at the vibe of the international team, even though they were down. They were 5-0 down, yet it looked like they were just fine, by the attitudes and stuff. And then I pointed out, I'm like, look, 3 of these matches went to the 18th hole. And so it wasn't like it was one-sided on Thursday. The leaderboard said it was, but really stuff was nip and tuck. And the Americans, to their credits, all birdied 18 to get results out of those matches. So perhaps there was a little something to build on. And then, the team's vibe afterwards, and then they came out this morning, and I had the opening match, and so it's Hideki and Sungjae against the team that I think is an immovable force in Xander and Patrick Cantlay. And I was expecting this, and I'll mea culpa here. I said to my driver, Ralph, I'm like, this one could be quick. Because Hideki didn't look very sharp on day one, and Sungjae was kind of iffy. And all of a sudden, they win the first, and they birdie the second, they win that. Next thing, they're 3 up after 6. And then all of a sudden, Hideki makes an awesome birdie on 7. Then they win 8 after an Hideki birdie. Then they birdie 9. And this thing is getting one-sided in the blink of an eye. And Captain Ernie Els joins the group there, and I had Tom Kim wandering around the hall. Well, he was running around screaming. He was like cheerleader in CEO of cheerleading. And Minwoo Lee was around, and Ernie shows up right after they win 11, the par 4, with a par. And at this stage, they are 6 up with 6 to play. And Ernie, I remember him. He's a big guy standing next to me, and he just raises his hand. And he goes he's pressing me, pointing forwards. He's like, let's go. And I looked at him. I'm like, Ernie, why didn't this happen yesterday? And he goes, I don't know. And he's just seemed flummoxed. And so I'm like, so what did you say to them last night? And he goes, nothing. He goes, these boys were just boys. We went back to the team room, had a couple of beers, and they came out this morning just doing the same thing. And with them closing out a match so quickly, and then I feel like with Corey Connors and Mackenzie Hughes, who are a dynamite combination on this golf course in alternate shots because of the way it stacks up and how their skill sets go. With them winning big, it's all of a sudden, you were there, the crowd got behind the thing. And it was loud, man. Every green I showed up on, they were screaming INT, INT. They were singing the Canadian national anthem a few times when I got to greens. And so it's like what they were hoping for on Thursday, getting the crowd involved, came to fruition on Friday. And so it was an uncanny day that I feel like was set off by their attitude on Thursday night after the drubbing and coming out this morning with a fresh resolve, and they just made a whole bunch of putts.
They made 7 birdies in a row, did the Sungjae Hideki Matsuyama team. I was already following this group. It was the first group out. You know, the Americans were trying to drop the hammer on the international squad. I was already following this group, and I was not leaving them because I was in Rome when Victor and Ludwig won by the biggest margin ever at the Ryder Cup. And I said, you know what? I want to see the President's Cup version of this. And they tied it, Mark. 7-6 ties the biggest victory ever. I was, there, 12 greenside. I felt bad. The fans were on 13 green waiting, Mark. They were waiting. This match did not get there, and it certainly sent shockwaves through the rest of the grounds.
I'm gonna text my brother and say, look, you were around for both those matches. They might hire you to go and follow a group tomorrow too.
I know.
You're the talisman.
It's incredible. I just watch all the blowouts. Well, that put a yellow and black flag on the board early, and the rest of the forecast was looking good. At the time, the internationals were up or tied in all of them. That was a common theme throughout the day, and they were about to put another flag on the board because that second match out, Adam Scott and Taylor Pendrith versus Sahith Theegala and Colin Morikawa, was also a resounding victory. The Americans did not make a birdie. The international squad won 5 and 4. And Mark, in real time, this felt like 15 minutes, something like that. It felt like a short, I don't know what it actually was, but it felt like a short period of time for the internationals to get 2 massive wins out of the gate, and you could feel the juice in the place.
You certainly can. I just want to put a bow on the Matsuyama match because I feel like with the way the golf course played today, in a strange sort of a way, it lent itself to the international team. Now, look, as we point out, the momentum, the crowd noise, that sort of thing, that helped. But I remember asking Minwoo Lee on like the 4th hole or the 5th hole, I'm like, hey, man, the greens seem faster today. Were they slowish yesterday? And he was like, they weren't really slow, but they were sort of soft. And he goes, I struggled with the speeds on the greens and stuff. And a lot of the putters on this international team, I would say as a group, they don't putt as well as the Americans. But the guys like the Hidekis, the Adam Scotts, that sort of crowd, the Jason Days, like the tip should be the tips of the spear here. They all really good fast green putters. And Hideki filled it up from all over the show today. It's like he was a different guy on the greens. Adam was the same sort of thing. Adam couldn't make anything in round 1. Look, Jason Day putts well on whatever it is. But I feel like, to your observation with this group here, Taylor Pendrith played beautifully yesterday. He showed up. After having a horrible President's Cup in Charlotte, he showed up this week, and he's playing with confidence. He's playing free, so kudos to him. But Adam on fast greens is a thing. Hideki on fast greens is a thing. And with today being dry, not very much humidity, we have got more of the same in the forecast. I feel like the firmer greens are almost like something that's going to lend itself to allowing the Hidekis, the Adams, and that sort of crowd to perhaps putt well over the weekend, because it's going to come down to that sort of stuff.
The internationals got the first 2 matches under their belt, and they were running downhill. We've got 3 more to go. Plus, we're going to look at the pairings for the first session on Saturday. Saturday is going to be a long day. But first, we're going to take a quick break and hear a word from our partners.
CBS Sports HQ, giving you college football coverage unlike anyone else.
We're talking Big Ten.
Pre- and post-game coverage.
Are you encouraged with the way that this team responded?
Along with breaking news.
A lot of movement in the rankings this week.
Highlights and expert analysis.
That streak could be in jeopardy here.
Sure. What was your main takeaway from this game? How impressive was his domination?
That really changed the football game.
Let's go ahead and have some more fun.
Another wild ending.
The chaos continues.
Turn to CBS Sports HQ.
And we're back. The third match of the day, Max Homa and Brian Harman against Christiaan Bezuidenhout and Jason Day. Mark, there are a lot of layers to this one. Firstly, a one-up victory for the internationals was closer by final score standards. I will also point out that at no point during this match did the Americans ever lead. There were 4 holes in which it was all square, but after the 7th hole, the internationals held a lead the entirety of the rest of the match. Another thing to consider here is that Max Homa and Brian Harman were the 2 guys that sat on Thursday. They went out together on Friday. And finally, after all that, I need to apologize to Christiaan Bezuidenhout. He did not have a good Thursday afternoon. I pointed that out to him, or not to him. I can't imagine he was listening to the First Cut podcast, and I would not have said it to his face. But he played much better and was stellar here on Friday.
He's just consistent. I'm sure he'll rue the tee shot he hit on the 17th this afternoon or this evening. But he's just consistent, and he's the kind of guy, Christian, that is, where he's overcome a lot in his life. And so as a result, I wouldn't call him bulletproof because all of us feel it. All of them feel it when the pressure's up. But he's a real strong man, softly spoken, but he carries a big stick. And alongside Jay Day, I feel like Jason's playing with a renewed vigor in this thing. Because I'm sure Jason will admit that in President's Cups past, when he was the number 1 player in the world, he wasn't really that up for it until he didn't get to play in President's Cups, and then he realized he missed it. And now with him being back here on the team, you can see the passion. You can see the engagement. I mean, guys are talking about how this team just feels different. And so Christian, solid player, making his way on the game, playing alongside a former world's number 1 who can put the dots off the thing when he's rolling it. I felt like this was a really nice combination. And in the end, you can say what you like about Christian playing well. That up and down, or that pitch shot that Jason hit from behind 18 green to kick in range, I'll tell you right now, they're not buying each other beers, but I bet you Christian is like, Jason, thank you for not, after that approach shot, thank you for not making me have to putt some sort of 6, 8, 10 footer to hopefully hold on to this one for a win. So for him to pitch it in there tight, ice the match, it was really good for the both of them. That I know.
Yeah, teammates picking up teammates down the stretch. And Mark, we saw it. We see this all the time at international team events, and we saw it a lot on Thursday. You see uncharacteristic emotion from Tom Kim, from Scotty Scheffler. Saw that from Jason Day. He is fired up. These guys, they're buying into it. And they could sense the blood in the water, because this match went for a while. It went to 18. It was emotion and a reaction out of Jason Day that I'm not sure I've seen before.
And it was cool too, because at that stage the other matches were done, and in the final match, the Scheffler Henley match with Si Woo and Ben An, Corey Connors and Mackenzie Hughes were there, but everybody else was up ahead. All the rest of the teammates with Christian and Jason Day. So to pull something off there in front of your teammates on the 18th green, kind of on the big stage, if you will, it to me was a cool victory, and it was meaningful. I remember we came up 18 there, and in the end with that Siwoo match where he's got a putt to earn the full point. I made the observation to Craig Perks, my fellow announcer. I was like, it's uncanny to watch these guys who play for millions of dollars and they win these big events and stuff, where right now someone's grinding for a half a point, and it means the world to them. And the way this thing's going now, maybe that half a point could be the difference in the end of it all. So to earn that full point coming up 18 in front of your teammates, in front of everyone, it is so meaningful for them. And it's the kind of thing where at the end of 2 long, grueling days, and you've got a big, long day in front of you with 36 holes tomorrow, for some people, it's the kind of stuff that just gets the adrenaline going more, and that adrenaline's going to carry them through it. Because if you're coming off a long day like today and you haven't played well, tomorrow is just going to seem like an eternity. So it's really a big deal, more than just half a point on the scoreboard.
The internationals were not done winning, and they were not done winning big. The all-Canadian group of Corey Connors and Mackenzie Hughes laid into Wyndham Clark and Tony Finau by a 6-5 margin. So to recap, match 1, 7-6. for the Internationals. Match 2, 5-4 for the Internationals. And here was a 6-5 victory where, again, at no point did the Americans ever lead during this match. Mark, there was a moment, I tweeted about it. I can't imagine you were on Twitter today, but there was a moment early. The fourth and second greens are right next to one another.
Yeah.
So the groups are waiting. They're taking turns. They're making sure they're not stepping on each other in terms of roars or crowd noise. There was a 30-second moment where on the fourth green, Colin Morikawa missed a putt and gave that hole to Adam Scott and Taylor Pendrith. And then Mac Hughes made a putt to win the hole for that group. And at the time, that was the moment. That was the biggest pop I had heard at Royal Montreal this week. It felt like things were changing. Mackenzie Hughes would go on with Corey Connors to make 7 birdies. And this was, I think, what the crowd was looking for out of the hometown team.
I think we'd be remiss, Rick, and I remember that moment, I heard it. We'd be remiss if we didn't identify the fact that playing alternate shot is not easy.
It's not. Do you see how many birdies there were out there?
Exactly.
Today?
I know. And it was like a birdie bonanza out there. And it's like guys were just feeding off each other. And it's like there was one or two situations where, certainly with the groups I had, where someone was out of position and your partner picked you up with a good putt or a good recovery shot or whatever the case might be. But I remember the moments. But I did say I wanted to reference this combination of Corey Connors and Mackenzie Hughes. Because, look, Corey can hit the heck out of the thing. But if there's a weakness, it's just he doesn't make the putts when it means something. And in matches like this, 18-hole sprints, you just have to make putts. It's as simple as that. It's not often at this level you're going to draw someone who's not playing very well, and you can kind of play average and win. You've got to make birdies, and birdies are the function of good shots and then converting. And the way this golf course sets up, with 4 of the par 3s being on odd holes, you can kind of stack it so the really good iron player plays the odd holes, and then the really good putter plays the even holes. So you got a situation here with Connors, who is a great iron player, Mackenzie, who's got a wonderful short game, and I'm sure would love to putt off the end of every single one of Corey's approach shots. It just worked a charm for these two. And then you add to that, they're both Canadian, they're both from Toronto, down the road about 3 hours. They get off to that quick start you referenced, they up, the crowds get behind them. It was like a heavenly event for a Ryder Cup rookie in Mackenzie, and then of course a Ryder Cup stalwart in Corey, who's yet to have a win. And it's amazing to see him inside the ropes later on in the day, standing behind the greens, kind of celebrating, but looking almost kind of not embarrassed, but kind of just demure about the fact that he's finally got his first point. And I could see how meaningful it was. You know, when people were congratulating him, he was just like, thanks. And it was really, really cool for me to see Corey Connors, the guy that everyone's expecting a whole lot of, to finally come through with that win. And I would be surprised if this combination gets split, because they did yeoman's work today, and they should stay together just because of the way they kind of ham and egg it and complement each other.
Well, I can tell you we'll get to the pairings, but for at least the first session tomorrow, they are running right back out there. So Corey
good. That's a good thing.
Hughes will not be split in session 1 on Saturday morning. With 4 points on the board, the number 1 player in the world, Scotty Scheffler and Russell Henley, were trying hard coming down the home stretch to put anything up for the Americans. This one came down and to all 18. They went to 18 holes here. Mark, I know you switched over to this group, and it came down to a 15.5-foot putt for Siwoo Kim. If he makes it, the Internationals earn the full point and get a 5-0 session sweep. If he misses it, the Americans were already in, and that would have split the match. It would have been a 4.5 to a half point session. And of course, Siwoo shakes that down, and he rolls it in for par. He gives us a great little celebration. He uses
shaking that ass, shaking that ass.
He uses the broomstick to complete the sweep. He does it and gets a 5-0 session for the international squad.
Crazy. Before I talk about Siwoo, he's a gem. I mean, he is just a diamond of a human being. He's so funny and he's so talented and gets so angry at times. I mean, he wears his emotions on his sleeve. But first off, I've always had high admiration for Scottie Scheffler. And to watch him in the anchor match for the last 5 holes today, he is just so calm with all the chaos going around him. He works at his pace. He leaves no stone unturned. He delivers shot after shot after shot, everything hit on the button. I mean, he gave Russell Henley looks coming in, and Henley did everything. I mean, every putt he hit kind of melted over the edge of the hole. This one could have gone the opposite direction.
Yeah.
But Scottie Scheffler is just, he is world class. And that sounds like a stupid platitude, but I honestly can't think of anything else to describe how good this guy is under pressure. How he slows everything down to his pace. He's like that NFL quarterback when you got linebackers and stuff coming at you, where he's like, I'm good, I'll step into the pocket, take my time and do the right thing. And that's what he does. And Russell Henley, the guy's a revelation. If anyone does not pick him in the future, they are dumbasses. I'm sorry. He is that good. I mean, he hit a tee shot up 16, which is not an easy tee shot. They're playing back into the sun. There's water all the way down the left, thick rough on the right. He knows he can't reach the bunker at about 310 through the fairway. And look, this is a situation where you can easily, if you're a little nervy, tweak one in the water or just blast one into Kingdom Come on the right-hand side. And he steps in there and just fizzes. I mean, this thing was like raw spaghetti. It was so straight down the left center of the fairway. Perfect. And, you know, I've known his game forever because he lives close to me. But I just watched this guy and it's almost somewhat surprising that he doesn't win more. But he deserves all the credit in the world in this combination of Scheffler and Russell Henley. Scottie's found his partner. They tried him with Sam Burns. They've tried him with various people. This is the combination for the future for the U.S. This is a worthwhile one for the Ryder Cup upcoming. So those two, I think they're great. I think with one different role, this could have been a different result. But all that being said, Ben An was big, but Siwoo is large, man. He carried Ben An coming down the stretch. He hit awesome shots. He stepped up there. He was decisive, didn't waste any time. Every shot, he had the number. He made the swing, and he had some great shots. And then, of course, the putt on 18. Look, we all sort of know, and I'm sure the data bears it out, that Jason Day is the best putter on this international team. But I would say if you had to poll the international team room, that they had to pick someone to make a putt when it meant something, that Siwoo was likely going to be the guy that they'd pick. And when he was over that, whatever it was, 15-footer, I said that to my colleague standing alongside me. I'm like, this is the guy who's going to make the putt. And when he hit it, I looked up at the big screen because the green's elevated. I couldn't see the ball on the ground. I saw where it started off. I'm like, that thing's buried. When he knocks it in, I wish I didn't have to have talked, so I could have had my phone out so I could video this event because it was so cool. It reminded me of Saturday last year at Quail Hollow when Tom Kim made the putt and he and Siwoo went bananas. It was the same kind of thing. Now it just makes me wonder now, right? Because if this international team were that buoyant in the team room afterwards, being 5-0 down, what that place must be like right now. It could be mayhem inside that locker room.
Well, you hit so many points that we're going to talk about when I get to the next day sessions. But you are right. For my money, I have not looked at the numbers yet. Scottie Scheffler and Russell Henley have been the two best Americans. This could have gone in a different way, but it did not. 5 full points for the internationals. To put this into perspective, Mark, Justin Ray tweeted this out, and it blew my mind. The number of holes that each team led in matches today. The internationals led after 57 holes. Team USA led after 1. the Internationals almost pitched a shutout in a 5-session day of alternate shot.
That's incredible. The coach in me is just saying, mind-numbing. The coach in me is just saying now is like, okay, it's happened. It's time now to pick up your lace up your bootstraps, get some rest, get some dinner, get out there tomorrow morning and do something. They're capable. This team played beautifully yesterday, but it's time now to put this in the rear view and go ahead. But it was, what you say there is unbelievable, but you and I were both out there. It sort of felt that way. Am I wrong? It just, everyone was getting the sense.
Yeah, it went through the grounds. It was early, it was often, and sometimes that momentum happens, and then the other team can steal a point or two late. It did not happen. So here's where we are at. Saturday, this is the long day. We're getting 2 sessions. We are getting 4 ball in the morning, and we are getting foursomes in the afternoon. So there are going to be 8 total matches played on Saturday. We have the groups and the pairings and the tee times for Saturday morning, and it's going to be an early one. 7:02, Scottie Scheffler is not playing with Russell Henley. He is going to play with Colin Morikawa, and they are going to go up against Adam Scott and Taylor Pendrith. So Mark, that is Sahith going to the bench. Russell Henley is going to the bench. Adam Scott and Taylor Pendrith are going back out after their victory this afternoon.
I find it curious that Russell is put on the bench.
Agreed.
Because he's the perfect guy in this 4-ball format to play alongside someone explosive. Because Henley is just going to par you to death and pick up the odd birdie. Agreed. And you can just free up. So I'll say that. But this is a really strong group in Scheffler and Morikawa. I didn't see Colin play today, but he was really stout in round 1. Scheffler's always stout. Scotty and Adam, I should say, and Taylor, it's a good group. And there's a lot of confidence there. And in years past, I would have said to you, well, Adam Scott's the strong man in this group. Right now, Taylor Pendrith is. And the way he's playing, the way the golf course is sort of setting up for him, he drives it a long way. So he's kind of the explosive one, and Adam's sort of the stabilizing influence. So this match will be fascinating. But just the way Scottie Scheffler's playing, I've got to hand the edge here to the United States.
Match number 2, 7:20 a.m. We are getting the Americans going back to Xander Schauffele and Tony Finau. They played in 4-ball together on Thursday, so they are reuniting that team. And as I mentioned earlier, Mark, Corey Connors and Mackenzie Hughes will not be broken up after today's match. They are going to go back out there and try to beat Xander and Tony Finau.
I'm going to try and come across as a non-bandwagon jumper right now, okay? So humor me. Any other day of the week, if you had said to me Finau Schauffele versus Connors and Hughes, I'd go one way, and that would be Finau and Schauffele. But Xander didn't look his usual self today. Looked like he had some decent shots, but he wasn't Xander. He just was a little off. I didn't see Tony play. But when I did watch him practicing extra on Wednesday afternoon by himself, and the rest of the team was off the golf course. And I watched him hit like 4 tee shots off the 18th hole, which I found curious because that's clearly a guy who's like, maybe the lines didn't fit his eye. We just sort of felt comfortable there. So Tony, he's a good player, but you're never sure about him on the greens. Xander's great on the greens. He didn't look that great ball striking wise today, but just Mackenzie and Corey. Mackenzie Hughes, I'm sure you saw it today after the match. He was like running from green to tee to green to tee, just geeing the crowds up, shouting, screaming. Folks were singing the national anthem. He was just relishing every minute of it. And I'm sure you couldn't get him to the first tee fast enough. I'm surprised I didn't put him out first tomorrow morning because that guy must be jumping at the bit. So I'm going to give the edge to the internationals there.
Okay, well, he's going to have to wait until 7:20 a.m. 7:38, match number 3 is going to be Keegan Bradley and Wyndham Clark. They're going back out together. They played in the same format on Thursday together. They beat Bezuidenhout and Pendrith, but this time around, they are getting a new group for the internationals. And you mentioned this group already. It is Siwoo Kim and Tom Kim, who won that big point on Saturday afternoon 2 years ago against Xander and Patrick Cantlay. That's the team. This is my favorite team. I love these guys. Get them out there. Let's run.
These two might spontaneously combust before the 18th hole, Siwoo and Tom. I personally was looking forward to seeing Siwoo and Minwoo, especially in a format like this, because Tom Kim hasn't had his best stuff, but he did seem like he was in good spirits, even though he was on the bench today. He was running around the place there. You saw him. He was like from group to group to group, geeing players on, patting them on the back. So Tom is up for it, and you can see how meaningful this thing is to him. Siwoo is playing great. He really is. Keegan is playing great. I love Keegan match play. And Wyndham, I almost felt like Keegan made Wyndham better in 4 balls on Thursday, because Clark is that guy who's got all these weapons. I mean, he hits it a ton, where with someone like Keegan Bradley setting him off, Wyndham will turn into a superhero like he did, because they were great together. So this is going to be a really, really good match. And I feel like the international success is a function of how Tom Kim plays, because he was not really that sharp in round 1. So right now, this is nip and tuck for me. I'll call it a half.
Here's the final group. At 7:56 a.m., it is Patrick Cantlay and Sam Burns going up against Hideki Matsuyama and Sungjae Im. So, Mark, I'm doing this in my head here. It looks like the Americans have gone with the original plan. Cantlay, Burns, Keegan, Clark, Finau, Xander all played in this format together on Thursday. The only difference there is Scheffler and Morikawa instead of Scheffler and Henley.
Yeah.
But the international team is going with form, with what just happened. Adam Scott, Taylor Pendrith together. They played this afternoon. Corey Connors, Hughes together. Matsuyama and Sungjae together. And then the only difference there is the Siwoo Tom Kim. So a couple different philosophies going on right now.
Yeah. And I appreciate the fact that, Captain Weir, he stuck with a plan, their plan, whatever the data analytics said in rounds 1 and 2, Thursday, Friday. But I feel like after a day like today, when emotion is rampant, you kind of got some green light shooters. So you just got to let them shoot, right? So I like what the internationals are doing. I got to tell you this. I rate Patrick Cantlay highly. The guy's got a mindset for match play. He wants the ball. He's kind of the guy who can deal with the upheaval of it all. But he did not drive the ball very well today whatsoever. He had a number of lefts. Xander was playing out of trouble a bunch of the time. And Patrick made some putts, which speaks to the mindset, but he's really not playing that well. On the flip side, all of a sudden, Hideki decided to show up. Sungjae, who everyone told me was playing great in the practice days, everyone's like he's going to be unbeaten, then had a horrid Thursday. He showed up. So I got to hand the edge to the internationals here, because Patrick just doesn't look completely there. Now, look, I was also the guy that was predicting something like 3-2 or 4-1 to the Americans after today. So nobody knows. It's going to be played on grass. But Cantlay has not looked as sharp as what I know him to be.
That means that sitting out for the U.S., we already talked about Russell Henley finding the bench. Sahith Theegala will take his first session off, and then back to the bench for Max Homa and Brian Harman. They sat out Thursday's session as well. And then that means for the international squad, Christiaan Bezuidenhout, Jason Day going to the bench as a team. And then Ben An will find the bench, and Minwoo Lee for the second consecutive session. I'm going through this in my head. I believe he's the only guy who is now going to sit out 2 sessions in a row.
I find that surprising. Like I said, I thought Minwoo and Siwoo would be a very cool group. So yes, to the Americans, it was like Captain Furyk had the luxury after day 1 of tossing Harman and Homa out there together, because both of them haven't been playing that well, especially Max. Now he's almost forced to play them, but they get a morning off. So now that's one less day, one less round under pressure. Then you've got to roll them out there probably tomorrow afternoon. So it's getting all very close to, Sunday singles. So now the rubber begins to meet the road. So I would advocate that, some of those guys, maybe go practice or whatever the case might be, they're allowed to play the golf course, behind everything.
They are.
So maybe go play a few holes, go work on the game some, because all of a sudden we're getting closer now, because tomorrow afternoon we're more than halfway through the tournament. So for those guys, when it rolls around, you can't be hiding guys in Sunday singles, because if this thing's shaping up the way it looks right now, it may come down to a point or a half a point or 2 points or whatever. So you need all your hands on deck. So for Captain Furyk, and also for Captain Weir for that matter, the guys who aren't that sharp right now, you need to get them out there somehow. And I don't know if alternate shot in the afternoon is a good idea. I think 4 balls, you can almost disguise someone when you're playing your own golf ball.
The Americans are still the heavy favorites, but the international team is as short as they have been throughout the entire year. They are shorter than they were before this tournament started. We are heading into Saturday, which will have 8 points on the line, tied at 5-5. So we are very much in it right now. And Mark, we're going to go through a long day tomorrow. And of course, we're going to pod afterwards and see where this thing ends up. But any final thoughts before we get out of here?
I just can't get over the emotionality of this all. I think of both sides, because I always joke with you guys, I'm like, every golf shot makes somebody happy and somebody sad.
Yeah.
And internationals weren't that. They didn't seem so sad on Thursday night.
There might not have been a shot that made them sad today.
Which is crazy, because there's this feeling about them right now, and they feel it too, and they kind of bought into the whole thing. But for the Americans, they were rampant on Thursday. Now tonight, I want to see if they can lift their spirits some, because there's still a whole lot of golf to play. There are 3 sessions. So yeah, I would say it's amazing how golf can be so emotional, and how, all these guys that have basically anything they could have anything they want. Right now, all of them would give whatever to earn a couple points for their country to hopefully win the cup on Sunday evening.
The marathon turns into a sprint. We have decided 10 points over the last 2 days. We are going to decide 20 over the next 2 days. So there is still a lot of points on the line and a lot of golf to be played and a lot of podcasting to do. For now, big thanks to producer Josh, who's playing through his flu game right now. Thank you, producer Josh. Mark Immelman, who you see right there and you can hear all day tomorrow. It can be found at Mark_Immelman, and you can find me at Rick Run Good. This has been The First Cut. We'll catch you next time.
See, woo, shaking that ass, shaking that ass, shaking that ass.